at a conference where he was speaking in Amman, Jordan, where I was doing some work. Zoughbi is the reason that I'm here tonight, and Zoughbi is the reason why I've dedicated my life to this cause and to the Palestinian people, and to the cause for peace and justice in Israel and Palestine. He invited me to come and see, and so I went and saw, and I've gone back over 30 times in the last 15 years. Zoughbi Zoughbi is the founder and director of ICMEP Conflict Resolution Transformation Center in Bethlehem. His offices stand in the shadows of the separation barrier, the apartheid wall that separates Jerusalem from Bethlehem. His center and Zoughbi himself have mediated over 2,500 conflicts throughout the West Bank and Gaza. ICMEP supplies medical services, employment programs for women and children and families in the West Bank and Gaza. So Zoughbi likes to say, he was asked one time by one of the members of one of my trips, he was asked, do you have much post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, here in the West Bank? And he said, post? You understand. And then finally, Zoughbi's work over the last number of decades has been recognized. He was World Vision International's 2010 Global Peacemaker of the Year. And he was recognized for all of his work in the West Bank and Gaza. He has Indiana connections. His wife Elaine's from South Bend, a graduate of Manchester University. Zoughbi's got his master's in conflict resolution and peace studies from that little Catholic school in South Bend. His daughter is a recent graduate of Goshen College, has 2 sons at Manchester University as we speak. It's really my delight, Zoughbi, to welcome you to Fort Wayne and to have you speak to us for a few minutes tonight. Zoughbi Zoughbi.
Thanks, Michael.
Oh, here, let me give you the microphone.
I have a loud voice. I hope I can live up to what you have introduced me to.
Can you hear in the back? John, can you hear in the back?
Yeah.
We're gonna need to speak louder.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be here. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Thank you. And I am uplifted by hearing the words of people who are in this country about my people in Gaza and the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Not to look at Gaza as isolated, as part of the Palestinian people. Before I continue, this is a legacy from Kissinger. Kissinger was appointed to be the director of the Biblical Zoo in Jerusalem. And all the journalists moved to Jerusalem before what happened in Gaza. And they took pictures. But many wondered what is really the achievement that Mr. Kissinger is rewarded. So one journalist came to Mr. Kissinger and said, Your Excellency, what was your big achievement in this biblical zoo? And he said, look around. He looked and found the lion and the lamb together and said, how did you make the lion and the lamb together? Mr. Kissinger said, every day is a new lamb. Yeah. And it seems we are the new lamb as Palestinians. And the attack on Gaza. What's happening in Gaza is a genocide. Dr. Mads Gilbert, who's a Norwegian physician, who was working in Gaza, he puts it like that. The heart of the earth beats in Gaza now. It bleeds, but it beats. Indeed, Israel reduced the entire population in Gaza to a starvation diet. Indeed, to count the calories, to keep them barely alive. For some of those, use the words, and you remind yourself, maybe Lieberman said, it is mowing the lawn to justify the indiscriminate slaughter of innocents. I look at what's happening in Gaza, listening to the news here and there, and I have the following points to talk about. The war on Gaza is not against terrorism. The slaughter in Gaza is not a clash of civilizations. It's not between democracy and decency and honor on one side and barbarism and terrorism on the other side. It is not against Hamas. It is against the Palestinian people. It is against their identity, their humanity. It is against their dreams to have a safe haven called home. It is a genocide carried out by the most sophisticated arms in the world. And it's not me who said it is genocide. The Israeli left wing and Jewish left wing in this country, like Braverman, like Helen Pape, Gideon Levy, and so on. It is a genocide in Gaza in particular and in all Palestine. This attack is about tens of decades. It is a long campaign to destroy and ethnically cleanse us from our land. Look what is happening. And you heard some of the numbers, but F-16 jets dropped 1,000-pound iron fragmentation bombs over the concrete hovels of Gaza. You know, Gaza, many of you know it better, 365 square kilometers and 1,800,000 people live there. More than 10,000 people wounded. Many of them are severely handicapped. The martyrs, والشهداء كرمنا جميعا, you know, their life moved to the other world, but those who are severely handicapped, 2,088 Palestinian deaths so far. Those are not figures. There are people who have life, who have families. You know, Gaza itself is 70% refugees. I called my friend a few days ago, and he said, I don't know, there is no safe haven for us. In 1948, we were kicked out from the coast. We went to Gaza. In 1967, occupied us. Sharon had his attack on us. Gaslit and others up till today. My home was destroyed. He is working in the hospital. He said, I went to the hospital to continue my work. The hospital was hit. He said, there is no place for me to feel safe, not for my children. You know, could you imagine that Israel has slaughtered about 86 families, killing 505 members of the family. It constitutes 20% of people who are killed. And you know, 3 members of the family, the same family killed up to 28. Could you imagine this barbarism carried against the people? And on the pretext, it is Hamas, it is fundamentalism, it is extremism. The electrical plant was destroyed totally. Only 6 hours of electricity, if you are lucky, people have in Gaza. No clean water at all. Even the media has hit hard. 15 journalists were killed. 16 journalist homes are destroyed. You know, 40,000 homes. And you know, as a Palestinian, and some of you are here, we are are a community-based society, and the family is a viable socio-economic unit. So what is left for people there? Even hospitals, 10 hospitals were damaged. Many clinics were destroyed. 16 ambulances were damaged. 83 health personnel injured, 23 of them died. The religious sites were not escaped. 69 mosques cannot be used anymore, and 150 have been partially damaged. Cemeteries were destroyed and desecrated. 2 churches, 1 Christian cemetery. And I remember when the attack on the mosques, there is the Monsignor Manuel Sallam, the Latin Monsignor in Gaza. He said, please, come to our churches and have your calls of prayers there. In a significant role to talk about the unity of the people against such attack. 450,000 people are displaced, and so on. The second point I would like to mention, in the media here, they talk about ISIS, they talk about extreme groups, fundamentalist groups, and so on. And many times, they associated it with Hamas, for good reasons or bad reasons. Hamas is not associated with these groups. Hamas is part of the Palestinian people. I'm not defending Hamas, I will not be part of Hamas. They have their own view, but it is not against Hamas, and Hamas is part of the Palestinian people. And we need not to confuse the names. Third, Israel government saying that Hamas using the children as human shields. And you heard it all the time. I ask, how many children were killed in the playgrounds, in the UN schools, in the schools? And even when they tried to run away to the beach, they were killed. And you heard the figures, at least 562 children killed, 255 women, and 980 elderly. And of course, you mentioned about the 370,000 Palestinian children in need of psychological, social first aid. And of course, there is no post-traumatic stress disorder. It is an ongoing trauma for us. Started in 1948 with the collective trauma, and the Nakba is not in the past. It has been happening since 1948. The fourth point, Israel always, we are hearing that has the right to defend itself. What about the Palestinian people? As a person who believes in nonviolence, I believe we are entitled to struggle using the popular struggle, and according to UN resolutions, it gave the people the right to struggle by all means. And Israel many times say, according to Article 51 in UN Charter, that states have the right to resist, but also people under occupation has the right to resist. And I don't think military solution will be the solution. Only political solution should be. And as, again, Dr. Matt said, the solution should be political. And we need to look at the situation with new lenses. And of course, when we talk about civilians, killing civilians is a breach to Article 147 in Geneva Convention, which is related to the protection of civilian people in time of war. Persons in time of war has the right to be protected according to 1949 Fourth Geneva Convention, which was signed on August 12. It seems Israel is not listening to anyone. even is not listening to the US. And the US officials says Israeli government was not showing enough constraint or restraint. Even, as you know, US provides 95% of the Israeli weapons. Could you imagine? We ask ourselves here, we pay taxes, where is our tax money going? Is it to enslave other people? $3.7 billion every year goes to Israel for military aid. The Iron Dome is supported by US money. Many of the sophisticated arms is supported by US money. And not only that, the United States, since Israel's establishment in 1948 and our catastrophe, has vetoed more than 40 resolutions on the Security Council level. And also, it vetoed Security Council Resolution 465, which passed in 1980, which talk about the protection and safeguarding of the Palestinian rights. I'm saying that because many people like to come and live in the United States, and it's great power, but also great power is associated with a great responsibility. I'm not going to preach to the converted. I know where your hearts, but it's always good to remind people in this country about the involvement of Israel. Even in the past, there was coordination between the military in Israel and the military in the US, and directly asking the weapons to be there. You know, the aides to the Secretary of the State on July 25 sent a confidential ceasefire to Netanyahu. Netanyahu even breached the protocol, because he didn't send comments or present the paper to the cabinet to vote. And look at this, with all of the support, Israel is rebellious. Who will help Israel responsible, and who will pressure Israel to stop this massacre? What we need, I believe it is the time to assure the demands of the Palestinians at this moment to have the ceasefire, which we call for to have independent port and to have free passage guaranteed internationally. Because it is no way that the people of Gaza could live. And of course, to lift up the 8-year siege. And let me assure that there will be no military solution, only a political solution. And for me, I like to see a solution based on restorative justice. As Palestinians, I want to live. I want restorative justice that redress the wrongs rather than avenging it. We want to celebrate life. Our children are entitled to live in a peaceful atmosphere, to nourish, to grow, to have education, to have medical treatment, to have a place called home. We need to find this way together. The international community must hold Israel responsible for its crimes before it is too late. You know, and this is very important message. As Palestinians, if Israel will continue, and we believe, you know, in the negotiation, and all of this attack came after the unity government between Hamas and Fatah. And they took the disappearing of the 3 settlers from Hebron as a pretext to have their own attack on Gaza after they have swept the West Bank. I think it is the time for BDS, you know, to have BDS active and to learn lessons from ending the apartheid regime in South Africa. It came as a result of collective responsibility, working together whether we are in here or at home, to alleviate the suffering of the people and move forward. I will conclude with Dr. Matt Gilbert, who is like you, who have solidarity with Gaza. He said, if no siege, there will be no tunnels. If there is no occupation, there will be no rockets. And together, we are working to free the people of Gaza, the people of Palestine, in West Bank, Gaza, East Jerusalem, and also the Palestinians who live in diaspora, who are entitled to live in a place called home. What is happening in Gaza now is the cry of the Palestinians, but also it has been happening since 1948, and the West Bank is part of the struggle for freedom and justice. Thank you for listening, and God bless all of your work.
Thank you to our keynote speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce Ayman Abu Rahma. Ayman Abu Rahma is from Life, who is an NGO in consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. And I will let him introduce the organization and his program as well.
Can you hear me in the back? Can you hear me in the back? Oh, good, excellent. I like this to move around. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. My name is Ayman Abu Rahma. On behalf of Life for Relief and Development, I would like to thank all of you for taking the time tonight and participate in our fundraising dinner to help the children of Gaza and to help the people of Gaza, actually. Life for Relief and Development is an NGO, non-profit organization, established 20 years ago in California. Then they moved the headquarters to Southfield, Michigan. Life for Relief and Development established to help ease the suffering of the needy, regardless of their religion, regardless of their gender, regardless of their color, all over. Because one thing we share in common, under this one roof, there's so many different backgrounds, different ethnic group, different religion, but we share one thing in common, humanity. And this is our goal, to help ease the suffering. Now, Life for Relief and Development has several offices all over the world, from West Africa in Sierra Leone and Ghana, to Africa, Horn of Africa in Somalia, to Iraq, Palestine, which is including the 1948, West Bank and Gaza, in Iraq, in Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and in the United Arab Emirates, in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Of course, we have a lot of partners, and we try as much as we can to deliver every single dollar that you donate to go to the needy, with a minimum of overhead percentage. Now, in July 8th of 2014, the whole world witnessed the brutal attack on Gaza. And Mr. Zoughbi already took my presentation. I don't have anything. He said all the numbers, said everything that I need to say. But the whole world witnessed what's going on. You can see that on every single TV, every single station. You could see the pictures, the videos on social media, Facebook. Pictures of 33%, according to the UNICEF, are little children who've been killed for no reason. And I want you to picture this. Living in a big jail. The that you cannot leave. Surrounded by what's called Israel, or Egypt, or the sea. You have nowhere to go. During the crisis, I called our representative. His name is Ahmed. I just want to check on him. I said, Ahmed, how you doing? He said, Alhamdulillah, thank God, I'm doing well. See, the people of Gaza always have the uplifting. I see the bombing, and he's short answer. Oh, Alhamdulillah, I'm fine. Okay. So, I say, what's going on? Your family's okay? Everything is okay? He said, yes. So, silly me, I said, be safe. Then he started laughing. He said, what does that mean? There's no safe place in Gaza. Anywhere you go, there's a bombing. Anywhere there's a killing. So, and they say there's a famous saying, there's a picture's worth 1,000 words. So I'm going to show you a short video about what's going on in Gaza and how life came in to help. Then we're going to continue with a short presentation and a short fundraising. So this is the life in Gaza. This is what's happening in Gaza. And I did work in several countries in the world, from Lebanon to even in the Horn of Africa, in Somalia, and the civil war in Sierra Leone. And in the last 3 years been involved also helping the suffering, what's happening in Syria. But I tell you, one of the toughest places that I ever worked in is working in Gaza. And I mean, it's very hard to work. As my dear brother mentioned earlier, there's nothing. There's no water, no electricity. I mean, there's nothing that you could start, you know, to do something. Where to start? It's very tough. It's very hard. And on top of it, this is what happened back in 2005 when Hamas claimed victory, won the election. Right away, the whole entire Gaza went down completely. Same thing happened in 2008, 2009, and happening today. So, and I don't like to talk about numbers. X number died, and children, etc., because every single human being makes a difference. And if you take a look at the pledge that you have in front of you, in the corner, the top corner, which is my dear brother Ahmed mentioned earlier, the verses from the Quran, from the Holy Quran, in the top, where it says, وَمَنْ أَحْيَاهَا فَكَأَنَّمَا أَحْيَا النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا, where it's translated in English. And if any, doesn't matter, any saved alive, it would be as if he or she saved the life of all mankind. So every single soul makes a difference. So it's our job tonight to make a difference. So, as I mentioned, working in Gaza, so I'm going to briefly tell you how life do assist. And you saw some of the pictures earlier, how aids go inside Gaza. Having a registered office in the 1948, which is technically considered Israel, allow an American NGO like Life to have the license to work in the West Bank and Gaza as well, which make it easy for us to lift all the bundle. Now, if I want to transfer money from the United States to Jordan, I'm going to have a hard problem. If I'm going to do the same thing in Lebanon, I'm going to have a hard problem. If I want to do this to Sierra Leone, I'll have a zillion of problems. But if I want to transfer money from here to Tel Aviv, I don't have no problem. Because it's the same system. It's easy. So in order for us to move forward, we have to be doing the legal stuff, the easy stuff. We've been monitored by the United States, which is good, which is fine. It's easy for us to do that way. So there's few organizations that really doing work in Gaza, especially the international NGOs from outside. Because again, in order for you to work in Gaza, there's so many regulations, so many licenses you need to be able to work in Gaza. Now there's two types of assistance that we do, which is the emergency relief, which is what we're doing right now by providing the basic need, the basic need, which is food and water. We're not building hospitals or schools or mosques or churches, no, nothing, none of that stuff. We cannot. So, what we're here tonight is to do the family assistance program, which is including helping the widows, the orphans, boys and girls, elderly, by providing the basic little thing that they need for them to survive, which is food. Now there's two easy ways of doing it. My target is tonight is to sponsor 200 families. Do you think I could do that? Raise your hand if you think we can raise enough funds